We demand the unification of all Germans in a greater Germany based on the right of self-determination of the people. Only a national comrade can be a citizen.
Authority on Witchcraft and Voodoo tells why he thinks a cult psychic blitz hatched in USA may be driving superstitious Hitler to a series of ruinous mistakes. Worried Adolf, according to report, now spends hours with sorcerers seeking to counteract the mass spell invoked by a conspiracy of underground dabblers in witchcraft. Abbeville, France, according to report, is one of the centers of the Death Doll League that is waging a bizarre psychological blitz against Hitler. The American Weekly. That old magic may be driving Adolf Hitler to ruin. Well-authenticated reports from Europe tell of a secret society which, using the dangerous weapons of devil worship and witchcraft, is waging a systematic voodoo blitz against the Nazi leader. It is by no means impossible that a campaign of this type is having an effect. The writer, in this course of his explorations into witchcraft and magic, has seen men die or go mad in the space of a few days from a simple bit of mumbo-jumbo involving sticking pins into a clay image, death chants, blood sacrifice, and rhythm incantations have turned strong men into hopeless cripples or mumbling idiots in a space of weeks. People tell me often that such things can't happen, but I've seen them, not only among superstitious jungle folk. I can cite a dozen proven instances in which educated people have sickened or died after being made the target of magic. How does it happen? The rational explanation is autosuggestion. That is, superstitious people believe they are doomed by such evil charms, and the result is their destruction. No one, however, can positively say what would be the effects of a mass witchcraft. No military authority, for instance, has yet offered a national explanation, or a rational explanation, of why Hitler chose to attack Russia, this converting a potential friend into a dangerous enemy. But believers in witchcraft could explain it easily. They could say the mass magic invoked against the Fuhrer by thousands of organized occultists throughout Europe, as reported from occupied countries, finally drove him to do one thing that was certain, to bring about his destruction. Add to this that Hitler is notably superstitious, that he believes in signs and omens, that he consults astrologists and fortune tellers, Moors. Well, it would have been an easy matter for a magician to have instilled into his mind the belief that an attack on Russia would mean victory and not defeat. Now suddenly has come the astonishing news that anti-Nazi Europe is being swept by a wave of death doll witchcraft and black magic. It is designed to bring about the downfall and death of Hitler. The facts here made public for the first time were gathered by George Allison, a London journalist. The movement seems to radiate from the Belgian town of Hesse, where members of a secret society have vowed thus to bring about the death of Hitler and his henchmen. This society, we are informed, has distributed thousands of death dolls, exact miniatures of German leaders, to patriots who have sworn the solemn oath to continue digging pins into the images of these hated Nazi tyrants until they finally succumb. But I'm just saying, though, you get 1,000 people doing that, man. That's a little bit crazy. Swarms of Gestapo agents have been detailed in vain. It is known to stamp out this dread wave of focused hatred, but a movement of that sort cannot be stopped if its adherents believe in it. Outstanding examples of this tenacity are reported from the region of Abbeville, from Lyons, and from the Saint Sulpice district of Paris, strongholds of ancient faith, fanaticism, and superstition since the 13th century. So whether the death dolls multiplied by thousands ever accomplished the personal destruction of Hitler or not, a terrible force has been unleashed, which may well play its part in the eventual downfall of Germany. The extent to which Hitler and certain of his associates are obsessed by beliefs which might make them susceptible to the death doll attack is a matter which psychiatrists and students and mysticism find absorbing. Shaw Desmond, founder of the Institute of Physical Research, says Hitler is so steeped in black magic that he never makes a decision without consulting his demons. When in doubt, asserts Desmond, He retires to his dark hole, at which he believes is impregnated by the black vibrations of his ritual. Invoking his guides or demons, he gives into a seeming trance, is then possessed by and supported spirits who advise him he feels is a pricking in the thumbs when they come. In a treatise on the occult causes of the war, the historian Louis Spence states that Mein Kampf was deeply influenced by Hitler's intimate contact with Alfred Rosenberg, a Baltic mystic who had a sinister faith in so-called black magic. Thus, such a simple event as the birth of a baby elephant in the German zoo gave rise recently to a wave of peace talk. It happened that a baby elephant was born in the same zoo in 1871 toward the end of the France-Prussian, and another in 1918, just before the World War. That with the recent birth was enough to make many Germans think the present conflict is drawing to a close. There are certain signs, as black magicians would call them, about the head of Adolf Hitler that bode ill for anyone who comes in close contact with them. In his public orations, there is a weird chanting effect that almost hypnotizes his hearers. It is an effect well understood by voodooists who use it themselves, and after hearing it just once, I was personally convinced that the mystic had made a close and intimate study of diabolism. Let doubters laugh at such things if they want to. I have lived with voodoo priests and have felt my own self the awfulness of their strange power. Personally, I want no part of the danger that lies in much sinister explorations. The fantastic movement now sweeping Europe may have begun here in our own USA, a beginning at which happened to be present. On the wet, windy night of January 1941, a group of young Washingtonians crossed the Potomac, turned into a side road, drove deep into the woods of Maryland, traversed a swamp, and after some time reached a dimly lighted cabin. From a hearse-like limousine, they dragged a life-sized effigy of Adolf Hitler in a basket, where a number of smaller Hitler images. A sinister black bag contained pins, needles, nails, hammers. The mysterious guests were met by Charles Tupper, owner of the cabin, a young university man, and by his older brother Richard, who was to direct the weird ritual which lasted through most of the night. The group included a number of young people, all serious, mostly engaged in defense work. I had been invited as a sort of consulting witch doctor, but Richard Tupper, a profound and hard-boiled, if amateur student of the occult, have documented himself thoroughly on the death drum rhythms, incantations, the whole doll of death ritual. He and his friends were not doing this as a stunt. They were in deadly earnest. After the image and dolls were set up on the cabin, Mr. Tupper arrayed himself in the voodoo high priest robes and intoned Adolf Hitler. You are the enemy of man and of the world. Therefore, we curse you I'm not even going to say the incantation, man. You know what I'm saying? You can go ahead and read that. I was able to help about the drums, and soon we got the death rhythm going. It is a solemn rhythm. The robed young men and women began to chant heavily in unison. In solemn procession they marched as they sung, piercing the dolls with effigy. At the conclusion of this savage ceremony, all presently joined in pronouncing the great death. At each incoming of soon, more needles were thrust home. The transfixed dolls were then taken outside and buried face downward in the swamp where they would rot. Now what on earth, you may well by now be asking, did these modern, intelligent, educated young people expect to accomplish by these incantations against a powerful tyrant from whom they were separated by an ocean? It can be safely said that they were expected nothing through the help of demons in which none of them believed. But modern medical science has long agreed that witchcraft, when it works, is nothing more or less than a psychotherapy in reverse. It is established that sticking pins in dolls or waxen images can be absolutely deadly to a victim who believes in the occult power of such practices, knows they are being used, and fears them. It was already then rumored that Hitler, a highly superstitious hysteric, was a fervent believer. So Mr. Tupper and his group used every means they could to disseminate their He's Hitler movement, to see the news of it reach Europe and Berlin to gain adherence.
He also announces the 25-point party program, which is formally valid for a quarter of a century until the demise of the NSDAP.
We demand the unification of all Germans in a greater Germany based on the right of self-determination of the people. Second, we demand equal rights for the German people in respect to other nations and the abrogation of the peace treaties of Versailles and Saint-Germain. Third, we demand land and territory for the sustenance of our people and settlement of our surplus population. Fourth, only a national comrade can be a citizen. Only those of German blood can be national comrades, regardless of creed.